30th, 1957. A 19-year-old boy went to a gas station and tried to buy a stuffed dog toy for his 14-year-old girlfriend when he found that he wasn't carrying enough money. The manager, Robert Calvert, refused to let him buy it on credit and threw him out. At 3 a.m. the next day, he returned with a shotgun. First, he entered the store twice and bought first a package of cigarettes and then a package of chewing gum. The third time, he came in dressed in a bandana and a hat to cover his face and held him at gunpoint with the shotgun, after forcing him to open the store's safe and robbing it. He forced Calvert outside to his own car, made him drive to a nearby remote area, and shot and killed him. Charles Starkweather was the name of that 19-year-old boy, and his girlfriend was Caril and Fugate. Starkweather was born in Lincoln, Nebraska, the third of 7 children of Guy and Helen Starkweather. He was born with genu varum, a mild birth defect that caused his legs to be misshapen, and was teased by classmates because he had a speech impediment. As he grew older and stronger, the only subject in which Starkweather excelled was gym, where found an outlet for his rage against those who bullied him. Starkweather's stylistic icon was James Dean, and he boosted his confidence by emulating Dean's looks. Starkweather began to harbor a belief that it was unjust how impoverished he was. He had worked as a newspaper hauler and then as a refuse collector. One day his inner rage got the best of him, and he decided that the only way he would be able to escape poverty would be to turn to a life of crime. January 21st, 1958. He went to Fugate's family's home with a rifle and ammunition. The details of what happened that day are sketchy, but the outcome of his visit was that Fugate's stepfather, Marion Bartlett, and her mother, Velda Bartlett, were both shot to death with the rifle he brought, and their baby daughter, Betty Jean, was fatally stabbed after putting up a sign on the house's door saying the whole household was sick with the flu. They spent a few days living in the house with the bodies of Fugate's family still in there. Police arrived on the 27th after Fugate's grandmother became suspicious and called them, by which time she and Starkweather had already gone to a farm in Bennett, Nebraska, and killed the owner, August Mayer, and fled. They hitched a ride from 2 teenagers, Robert Jensen and Carol King, and killed them after forcing them to drive them to a nearby abandoned storm shelter the next day, by which time they had already left the area. The duo's old car, which had gotten stuck in the mud, was found along with the bodies of Mayer and the teenagers. Starkweather and Fugate then fled to a wealthier part of Lincoln with Jensen's car and attacked the home of a wealthy industrialist named Seelauer Ward. Only his wife, Clara Ward, and their maid, Lillian Finkel, were home at the time. After killing Ward and one of the household's 2 dogs, they forced Finkel to make them breakfast. When Mr. Ward himself came home that afternoon, he was shot to death. Finkel was then tied to a bed and killed as well. They then left in the Ward's Packard. When the bodies were found, a full-scale manhunt began seriously, and the police started a house-by-house search of the area and even called in the National Guard. The FBI was also brought in. The mayor of Lincoln offered a reward of $1,000 when Starkweather and Fugate realized that the Packard they were driving would attract attention. They approached a Buick owned by Merle Collison, a traveling salesman, near the highway close to Douglas, Wyoming, shot him to death, stole the vehicle, and drove away because the car had a parking brake, which Starkweather wasn't accustomed to. The car wouldn't move when he started it. A bypasser offered to help, only to be threatened by Starkweather with a knife. A nearby deputy sheriff, William Romer, noticed the exchange and called for backup, setting off a pursuit. Fugate got out of the car, crying and saying that Starkweather had killed someone, while Starkweather ran back to the Packard and started driving towards Douglas. Police picked up the chase and fired at the car, which stopped in the middle of the road. A bullet had shattered a windshield, cutting Starkweather near the ear enough to make him bleed. Thinking he had been mortally wounded, he pulled over and surrendered so he could get medical attention. Both he and Fugate were then arrested and tried in Nebraska. At first, Starkweather stated that he had forced Fugate to come with him, but then started changing his story repeatedly, finally asserting that she had been a willing accomplice who had actually committed some of the murders. Fugate maintained that she had been held hostage, though she wasn't believed. Starkweather was only tried and found guilty of the murder of Robert Jensen and sentenced to death, because there was evidence suggesting that Fugate had had opportunities to leave Starkweather that she hadn't taken. She received a life sentence as his accomplice. At noon of June 25th the next year, Starkweather was executed by electric chair. Fugate's life sentence was commuted and she spent 17 years at the Nebraska Correctional Center for Women in York, Nebraska, before being released early for good behavior. A retired medical aide, She was last known to live in Hillside, Michigan, in 2007. She married a man named Frederick Clare. They were in a car accident together in 2013 when their SUV went off the road. Fugate survived with serious injuries, but Claire died. Until this day, Fugate says that she acted out of fear and shock and was innocent of those crimes. The Starkweather Fugate case inspired the films The Sadist, Badlands, California, Natural-Born Killers, and Starkweather. The made-for-TV movie Murder in the Heartland is a biographical depiction of Fugate and Starkweather. Do you think Fugate was equally involved in those crimes as Charles was? Share your thoughts in comment box. And if you want to know about savage cult of Japan and the drug kingpin of Mexico who is working like Israeli commandos, then watch those videos on this channel.